In the mid of 1980s, Coca-Cola Company had been losing market share of cola for several years. They believed the problem lies in the taste of the drink, decided to reformulate the flavor to regain its market position. This, presumably a commercial decision, turned out to be a national disaster, a major failure in the history of consumerism. Coca-Cola, originated in 1886, has been part of American lives with record of consistent growth in decades. Their success lies on the secret formula of the drink, which is kept in a vault in the United States. The Pulitzer Prize-winning Kansas journalist, William Allen White, described it as, "Sublimated essence of all America stands for, a decent thing, honestly made."
Every time, there's nothing like ice-cold Coca-Cola.
There's nothing like.
They had successfully conveyed the message of joy and happiness, created a bondage with consumers, with advertisement in tune of the time.
And furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves.
However, since 1960s, their market share began to decline, from 60% after the World War II to as low as 24% in 80s.
Since 1964, the product Coca-Cola had been losing market share in the United States. At the same time, the sugar cola segment in which Coca-Cola competes was shrinking. So it doesn't take much of an imagination that if you're losing share in a market segment that is shrinking, eventually you will end up with nothing.
As the public awareness of health increased, consumers were more willing to purchase diet and non-cola drinks, which were also sold by Coca-Cola, further eroded its market share. Another threat was coming from their competitor, Pepsi, who had begun to outsell Coke in supermarkets. In 1984, Pepsi had launched their New Generation campaigns, starring actors and musicians such as Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, Cyndi Lauper as their front. Pepsi had also begun a popular ad campaign called the Pepsi Challenge, in which the majority of participants in blind taste tests chose Pepsi over Coke.
Can you tell me which one you prefer?
L.
You're both sure you like L better.
Right.
What was your choice?
And which was it you preferred?
Pepsi.
Just over half the Coca-Cola drinkers tested prefer Pepsi.
Coca-Cola was worried. It was only vending machines. Fast food restaurants were the places where Coca-Cola maintained its lead. The executives were convinced that the taste of the Coca-Cola was their biggest problems. So they decided to reformulate the recipe. It wasn't the first time they changed the formula though. Back in 1903, they had cocaine removed as an ingredient. In 1935, 2 changes were made to the formula, so the drink could be considered kosher, as well as halal and vegetarian. Goizueta once told the Coca-Cola employees, there would be no sacred cows in how the company did business, including how it formulated its drinks. Coca-Cola didn't implement the project hastily. It was a bold and risky move after all. They spent years doing marketing research, controlled every details to make sure it would be a triumph. From the results of the taste tests, surveys, focus groups, the new formula had overwhelmingly beat both regular Coke and Pepsi. Most people who tried it thought it was delicious. When asked if they would buy and drink the product if it were Coca-Cola, most testers said they would, although said it would take some getting used to. However, about 10 to 12% of testers felt angry and alienated at the thought, and said they might stop drinking Coke. They might have provided a clue as to how the change would play out in the public, though the company had downplayed. The management was confident anyway. They insisted that the change must take place openly. and they rejected an idea to keep the old one, and offer the new flavor as a separate alternative of Coca-Cola. The company's ad agency in New York put in after-hours work in a separate office, so that no one know about the change. People working on the commercials were told that it was a new packaging design. Even the bottlers weren't let in on the secret until the day before the public announcement. And then the big day came. It was April 23, 1985 at New York City's Lincoln Center. 700 journalists and film crews occupied the hall, along with satellite feeds to media in Atlanta, Houston, and Los Angeles. No one anticipated what would it be. Then, Goizueta broke in the news.
The best soft drink, Coca-Cola, is now going to be even better. Simply stated, we have a new formula for Coke. I would say is smoother, rounder, yet bolder, is a more harmonious flavor.
You're a pretty good copywriter, Roberto. I mean, are you 100% certain that this won't bomb, this new formula?
I think, as I said, I think this is the surest move ever, because the consumer made it. We didn't.
People attended the conference were invited to try on the new flavor.
It's sort of flat, and it is sweet, sort of like you left it in an open can in the refrigerator a while.
At the same time, Pepsi people organized a demonstration to celebrate Coke's changes. Free Pepsi were offered just a few blocks away the Lincoln Center. In addition, they took out a full-page ad in New York Times, pouring it on the competition.
We're here to say that victory is sweet. I think Coke's announcement today is a concession of victory to us. I think most people know that when something is right, you don't change it. We're not changing it, they are.
But the winner was not proclaimed, yet. The Coca-Cola Company took to the streets of Atlanta for its huge promotion campaign. Thousands of cans were given away. For the first few weeks, things were going well. The public response was mixed, but mainly favorable. The company's stock even went up after the announcement, and over 80% of the US population was aware of the change within days of the announcement. Even people who preferred the old soda seemed okay with the switch. Surveys indicated that the majority of regular Coke drinkers liked the new flavoring. In fact, Coke sales were up 8% over the same period as the year before.
Recently, an independent research firm ran a taste test between Coke and Pepsi, and the taste more people chose was the taste of Coca-Cola.
Though there were lots of people contented with the change, many more hated it.
What do you think about Coke changing its formula?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I don't like it.
I threw it out the window of the car.
Because we don't like it.
Because we don't like it.
It's too sweet.
It's kind of weak, like it's been open and it's been stood out.
Soon, it turned out to be the biggest collective response of public about a product in the history of consumerism. Coke loyalists would use their way to assert their dislike for new Coke. Tribune columnist ridiculed the new flavor and expressed anger at Coke's executives for having changed it.
I'm glad the person who came up with this dumb idea wasn't around when the Mona Lisa was painted. He probably would have said that her smile wasn't big enough.
Roberto Goizueta became the subject of ridicule.
I received numerous letters. One of the letters was addressed to Chief Dodo, the Coca-Cola Company. What was fascinating was that it reached my desk. There was another one, a gentleman in Wisconsin, who wrote a letter, kind of protesting about the formula change. And then he said, I would appreciate it very much if you signed this letter at the bottom and return it to me, because in years to come, the signature of the dumbest executive in American history is going to be worth a fortune.
Even their delivery man was assaulted when stocking up the new Coke. Of course, it would be such a great opportunity for rivals to take advantage of it.
In the universal search for great taste, it doesn't take a higher intelligence to figure out why one cola's changed and one cola's chosen.
Coca-Cola Company's head office was flooded with over 40,000 angry calls and letters. Some people sounded as if they were discussing the death of a family member. Gay Mullins, a Seattle retiree, formed a group called the Old Cola Drinkers of America to lobby Coca-Cola to either reintroduce the old formula or sell it to someone else. He garnered significant media attention by publicly dumping new Coke down the sewer while the media filmed his every move. His organization eventually received over 60,000 phone calls. He claimed that he and millions of other Coke lovers have been deprived of their freedom to choose the old flavor, the very fabric of America. The backlash becomes something rather than about the tastes. It was a repugnance against the idea of change. Mark Pendergrast, author of the popular book For God, Country and Coca-Cola, believed that, in the late 1970s and early 1980s, America had lost its identity. From Watergate and Vietnam, to high inflation and very rapid change in the country. It caused a loss of confidence by the American public. All kinds of things were changing under our feet, he says. Coca-Cola was really a symbol of something that was seemingly solid, and it represented something that wasn't changing. So when they changed it, it really hit people where they hurt because of the slide of our culture into dysfunction.
My oldest daughter is 22. Her first word was Coke. Her second word was Mommy.
By mid-June, when soft drink sales usually start to rise, sales of new Coke dropped off the map. It was finally becoming clear to Coca-Cola what must be done, as they understood why it would never succeed. One executive said later, "We could have introduced the elixir of the gods as new Coke, and it wouldn't have made any difference." On July 11th, in less than 3 months after new Coke's introduction, the Coca-Cola executives came out to face the media again, this time to say that they were going to make a U-turn, or revert to the original formula.
The news about the introduction of Coca-Cola Classic ran on the Dow Jones wire at 3:18 p.m. yesterday.
I'm Don Keogh, president of the Coca-Cola Company. When we brought you the new taste of Coke, we knew that millions would prefer it, and millions do. And we knew that it would beat the taste of our major competitor, and it does. What we didn't know was how many thousands of you would phone and write asking us to bring back the classic taste of original Coca-Cola. Well, we read and we listened, and you know the rest.
The company hotline received 31,600 calls in the 2 days after the announcement, but this time they were messages of delight, relief, and thanks. The news was splashed on the front page of the newspapers across North America. For Coke loyalists, all was right with the world again. The sales was significantly boosted, and the company's position atop the beverage industry was strengthened. This led to speculation that the new Coke formula was a ploy to stimulate sales of the original Coca-Cola, which the company has denied. New Coke faded from most U.S. markets by the early 1990s. In Chicago, however, sales of it remained strong and continued to flourish for years. It was discontinued in 2002. No one at Coca-Cola was fired for the change. PepsiCo's CEO believed that had people been fired or demoted over new Coke, it would have sent a message that risk-taking was strongly discouraged at the company. On May 21, 2019, Coca-Cola reintroduced the 1985 reformulation in limited quantities to promote the Netflix series Stranger Things. This time, the reviews got friendlier. 500,000 cans were sold mostly online, and in no time.